somewhere. What were you saying, Brandy? Sorry.
I said that conference was a fucking blast, and I only regret that I didn't stay the second day. Why didn't you guys tell me?
Well, who knew dentistry could be so fun?
That's a little bit my point, Peter. Like, I thought I was going out to a dental conference and it was going to be like this boring, dingy
alert,
room,
right?
whatever. And I get there and it's like a freaking Tony Robbins event.
Well, the energy was quite different. I got to tell you. What'd you say, Randy?
I said Tony Robbins runs the best events in the world. So I just want to make sure you got the reference.
But it's an energy thing, right? And like, that's something we just never, energy just kind of rules the world and runs things, and, you run towards it and you run away from bad energy. And so I think we finally figured this out, thanks to Craig, honestly, who really pushed on DJ and the right momentum and the right thing, because, and I got so many people replying, so many texts that were like, dude, hands down the best one. And I think it was largely in part to, yes, the content, yes, the curriculum, but it was also just like the cool energy that was transpiring. Wouldn't you agree, Craig?
100%. I think the funniest part was when Randy got there the first night. He had no idea what we do, and he's looking around. He's like, "Holy fuck! Like, guys, you should. What? I shouldn't be here. You guys should be like reviewing notes. Like, there's 20 people in black setting up the stage. 500 people are going to be there. There's massive amounts of like Megatrons."
I was having dinner with you guys, and then later you walked me into the room, and I saw the room, and I'm like, you guys shouldn't be here. You guys should go rehearse or something. Hey, I didn't know what a big show it was.
Hey, if you're not ready to roll by then, you ain't going to get ready in the next 8 hours.
It was truly, guys, I've been friends with you guys.
Oh, I don't know, Peter. You and I.
It was truly remarkable. I've been going to conferences for 40 years. I've never seen anything like that.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for that.
It made me proud to be a part of it. And in the future, I think I could do 2 days and run a couple different tracks and offer a little more content.
Yeah, a workshop. So just to give some context, Randy, if those of you who don't know Randy, if you didn't see the podcast that he and I did, it was, I tell Craig, it was probably the best podcast ever done on Bulletproof. Bulletproof. I'm kidding, Craig. But if you haven't heard of Randy did a little bit of leaned into our mastermind, and at this summit he did what's called Randy's Top 20, because there's so much financial illiteracy in dentistry, actually not even in dentistry, Randy, just in the world, in the public. We've never been taught all these things, and so Randy leaned in and gave his top 20 tips that he's learned over the course of Randy, you've been a businessman for what, 40 plus years?
I'm 59 years old. I started my company when I was 19.
Yeah. And so you've had a successful exit. You've come back in, and you are a student of all things, meaning, some people, you are constantly learning. And that's what I've got to admire about you so much. Yes, you don't really need to be learning anymore, so to speak, if you know what I mean, from a financial independence standpoint, but you are always interested in things, whether it's, we were even talking about, blockchain and Bitcoin and stuff. Like, I admire the hell that you just are constantly learning and advancing, even though you don't really need to. So
that's an interesting point.
What is the question? Because I got so much feedback from you. What was your most common question that you were getting, or what was your takeaway from dental finances as people were kind of in your conference, or whether the mastermind or this conference? Like, what are you getting a question commonly?
I would say, Peter, the biggest thing now, not only did I have 100 plus people in my room at my breakout, but I've received over 25 emails from people that were in the room, asking for additional information and giving feedback, which I really appreciate, because it helps me the next time I do this, to make sure I'm spending time on the things that matter. But what I find most interesting is in the course, I kind of mentioned that Craig, Craig's a good friend of mine. He likes everything I do, and he thinks I'm, magic. And really what I am is a scientist, and I just follow a protocol and it gets a good outcome. And so I started going through my top 20, and the questions that people were asking me are so basic, and they want to make sure they get them right, about a personal financial statement, about how to think about debt, about what good debt is and what bad debt is. And and a lot of basic things, banking questions, and of course, my favorite, tax questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting, guys, and you said it, Peter, is they do not teach you this in school. And I had to learn it the hard way. In school, you get the lesson and then you learn. In the real world, you get punched in the face and then you learn.
And
that's and that's what I did for 40 years. And it did work out. And for some reason, I'm still interested in business and learning and whatever. And now I'm at a point where I like to learn and I like to share. And what one more comment on that is, everybody in that room is an independent business person.
Right.
And I think that's the problem, is you have to come together and build networks like you guys are doing with Bulletproof. I now see the beauty and the value of what you guys do, because every entrepreneur is like on an island, right? Being an entrepreneur is like being the president of your own country. You get to make all your own rules. You get to set all your own policies, and then you see what things work and don't work, and then you tweak as you go. But if you get together with 10 other people or 20 other people or 30 other people and you workshop these ideas, the group coming together like that, like your mastermind, is where the magic is. Because the guy standing next to you is going to ask a question that's going to jog your mind to ask a question, and you're going to get group think. And businesses should be run with group think. That's why companies have board of directors. But I'm pretty sure that all the dentists that came to your conference don't have a board of directors.
No.
So they sit in a room listen to a chump like me, and they're all impressed by what I have to say. And I just think there's a way that we can reach these people and help them with a lot of this basic stuff.
Yes, I agree. There's kind of sometimes some shame in some financial stuff, meaning that, like, not dissimilar to, maybe a kind of a dental analogy, Randy. We sometimes go into our treatment room with a patient, and the patient, you say, Mrs. Jones, here's your x-rays, you understand? And they start talking, and we start seeing them shaking their head. And they don't really understand, but they're shaking their head. And sometimes I see the same thing in dental financial literacy, is you talk about something and you see some blank stares, but they're shaking their head thinking that they should know the topics, or, they should know all about conservation easements or the tax depreciation or balance sheets or whatever. And they shake their head, like, yeah. But there's really not a full understanding of it. And so I think when you can kind of shed that vulnerability and be like, hey, I don't really know what a balance sheet is. Like, it's okay. Hey, I don't really know like how to read a P&L. That's cool. The first step to kind of getting it is being like, I don't really know. And guess what? Super cool, because no one taught you, especially like you said in dental school. So it's super cool to just say, hey, I don't understand, and I'm here to learn. And that's why I love when you came and talked to our mastermind, because we got some of that vulnerability. Sometimes people won't be so vulnerable in a room of 100. They will be kind of in a room of 15, 20, 30 people, right? And you get to a room when it's a little more intimate environment. And that's why I love that we're really having you back at the mastermind this coming year, which was the enrollment was a wild success, by the way. I don't know if you heard, but it was great. There's a lot of demand for this upcoming mastermind. So we're building something good. And this is a data point that things are trending in that direction of things being good, right? Meaning a tremendous amount of value, life-changing value, personally, professionally, financially, all these things that happen from that. So really proud of that. I was really blown away and humbled by the demand for this mastermind.
I think your conference showed people like looking behind the curtain to see the value of the groupthink. And, I don't know how you guys run your business, but you could end up with different, you could expand the mastermind program, get more people into it, have different, moderators, what have you. When I've joined your mastermind for podcasts and in person and some of your events like Park City, which was awesome, I do get to drill down with people and get into your ecosystem and listen to the questions. And if you remember, there was a couple times where somebody said something and I go, wait, what? Like, you lose that many patients a month and you don't pick up the phone and call them? It's like, because I'm not a dentist, I think it's helpful for me when I'm working with you guys and listening to the questions, because I just come from it from a business point.
You couldn't believe, I think that context is funny. You couldn't believe from a business perspective, you're like, wait a second, you guys know when someone's becoming not technically a patient and you physically don't call them yourself and say, hey, what's going on? People are like, no, we don't do that. Like we rely on software or someone on our team. And you're like, this is crazy. How could you let this happen? Like I'd be on the phone as the business owner being like, hey, Karen, how's it going? I see that you're inactive. This is Dr. Randy Smith calling you. He's like, I would be telling the patient, get your ass in here.
Yeah.
Dude, I got a funny story, guys. So I have a potential mastermind that wants to join, right? This is yesterday. I know that we have a limited number of spots. And she's like, can I just talk to you? Because I don't think it's the right move for me because, and Peter, you saw the email. It's like my practice profit is amazing. My team's super happy. Like I'm just blowing and going. I'm on my third practice, about to acquire my fourth and fifth. I just don't know what the value prop would be. Well, first of all, you said you wanted to join and now you don't know what the value prop would be. So I'm like, okay, I'll get on the phone with you, right? Immediately within the first like 5 minutes, I'm like, so what percentage profit are you? She's like, I think I'm like 50-60% profit. I was like, okay, well, net profit. I'm like, you'd be the most profitable dental practice I've ever heard of in my life. You sure that's what your profit is? 60% or 50%? And she's like, well, I know it's like $1 million. I'm like, yeah, but it's percentages. And then like, what's the percentage of your rent? Well, I know it's like $20,000 a month. I'm like, okay, but and we started whittling this down and I realized you have no idea of the actual numbers of your business. And like you would do with me, Randy, like 15 years ago or 20 years ago when you were like, hey, what percentage is this? What percentage is that? When you're a business owner and you have no idea what your numbers are, you cannot actually say you're in control of your business whatsoever. So this lovely doctor is, on her patient, she's flying blind. And like through the questions, I never even got a chance to like give her the value prop. She's like, oh shit, I need you. Can you please talk to my CFO? I'm like, yes, I'd love to talk to your CFO. Like bring these people to the mastermind. But it's just really, really big look into most dental practices and where they're at and the lack of guidance that they actually have.
Craig, I have a description of what that's called. That's called letting success get in your way. I have all kinds of friends. I mentor all kinds of entrepreneurs. And when they're killing it and making money, which is really hard to do, right? But once you hit that and you're killing it and you're making money, they're making money. The bank account is building every month. They're buying the stuff they wanted, whether it was cars or trips or whatever, and it's working. And then I come in and then I look at their numbers and I find a way to get it 10 or 20% better than that just by moving levers.
And I think
like this one particular person, you could take this person and add like $500,000 to her bottom line. Just you alone. Forget all the other stuff that we do.
Dentistry. I'm going with this, Randy, is that dentistry, when done well, especially in bull markets when things are rocking, people do well despite themselves, right? And so it's great. Like, when bull runs and everyone thinks there's an amazing stock investor, right? You could just throw a dart at a stock and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm really talented at this. The same thing happens in dentistry. It's this vicarious endorsement by the market of thinking that you're a good operator. The problem is that when the winds stop blowing in your favor, they're not at your back anymore. And all of a sudden you're wondering okay, I need to fix this because it's not like I thought it was, right? My profitability's fallen. And now you don't know what levers to turn because you don't know what levers got you to success in the beginning, right? And so that is like, Craig, I think that's what you're saying, right? That is the next level chops of an operator is knowing, okay, this is falling, therefore do this, right? Do X, Y, and Z to equal the outcome that I want to do. But if you're just doing well and you're doing well because you're quote unquote lucky and you're hustling and you're working hard and you're getting a lot of new patients, don't expect that to be in perpetuity is my point.
Well, also, Peter, like there's the business that she is and the business she's becoming. She's a great dentist, places implants. She does great work. So for her business was always just her output. Right. So you just figure just more of that. She's got
conflating her.
Yeah. So practice number 4 and practice number 5 are coming online and she still wants to be a full-time dentist. Well, who's going to run it? Do you have a CEO? No. Do you have, so there's what she's doing now. And she just figures more of the same will create a better result. It's like what I was doing when I was making $3 million top line and earning, $300-400 grand a year. I figure when I get to $6 million top line, I'll earn $800 grand or right. 12 million. I'll 1.6. It's not a linear exchange of gross to net. When the gross starts to get really big, things get really fucking out of control.
And the same thing about your effort. Let me say one more thing, just because I'm someone who's gone from 1 to 7 practices, right? It's not the same effort, meaning that like practice 1 and 2, relatively easy because you're the thoroughbred, you're the superstar in the ecosystem. You can kind of, hey, I'm going to go over here 3 days and here 3 days, and it's going to work. Practice 3 starts kicking your ass, but you get through it. But then, like you said, practices 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever you want to do. That requires, like Randy said, even in the beginning, a board, right? Different positions. Who's going to be your controller? You cannot be all the things, because then you fall into the trap like I did. You think you did the nucleus of everything, and all of a sudden now your life is miserable because you didn't create the systems. You're making money and you're busy and you're quote unquote successful in the outcome, but you're miserable because you're stressed constantly. You're stressed 24/7, right? Because it's all on you. And so, anyway, Craig, I love that you're bringing it up, right? Because it's success isn't necessarily the hey, I'm doing well, I'm making $1 million a year or whatever. Success, I think, is enjoying the quality of your life.
Yeah, and it also points back to that slide of you don't know what you don't know. So people, when considering, like, just for the mastermind as a small example, there's what you know, like I know how to like be a good dentist, and there's what I know I don't know. Like I don't really know the hygiene compensation plan, and I don't know how to use like personality testing to optimize my team and stuff like that. But what you don't know is like, holy shit, like even just the first couple minutes, I wasn't even trying to be rude with her. It was like, what is this? What is that? And she has no idea. I'm like, you see? Do you see? She's like, yes, I see. Like, is there still a spot? And like immediately, like 30, 40 minutes in the conversation, like, oh shit. And that's what, like, Randy, honestly, that's what you did. And that's what my buddy John did. Like I got my dental business education from non-dentists.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, remember what you were saying to me all the time? Like, what are your numbers? How do you not know that? The first time we went to dinner, he's like, I want you to go home and look in the mirror, Craig. And I want you to look at yourself and say, I spend $35,000 a month on television ads. Say that to yourself in the mirror over and over. Remember you told me that, Randy?
Meanwhile, he's losing 20 patients a month at 18 months in a day, right? They go inactive. And I'm like, what is each one of those worth? And he's like, 1,200, 1,500, whatever, 2,000. I'm like, great. So call 2 on the way to work in the morning, call 2 on the way home. If you can capture 2, you make 2,500 a day on your freaking commute. And Craig goes, Randy, you don't understand. Doctors don't call patients.
Yeah.
And I know they're patients, but they also pay money. So
I call those patients, but yes, as an example, they won't call. They won't call for the post-operative appointment. Hey, Randy, just making sure your appointment was comfortable today. Give me a call if there's any problem. That's we talk about this all the time. The single greatest hack to your dental practice is a post-operative call.
In the meeting last week, I asked all the dentists, I kind of talked about that one because it's one of my favorite dental stories. And I have a history in the dental business, Peter. I don't know if you know, but I was the CEO of Dental Vibe when we designed the product back in 2008 and 9. And I was actually,
that vibrating thing? That vibrating?
Yeah, when you give an injection, it vibrates.
Yeah.
The problem with that business model is all the doctors think their shots are perfect. So I told Randy, I'm like, you're going to have a hard time convincing doctors that their shots aren't great. So like I was telling Randy, like on a call yesterday, I'm like, you know what the difference between a major and a minor and a major dental procedure is? Minors when it's happening to them, majors when it's happening to you. So it doesn't they don't give a shit.
But Peter, what the reason I told you that, and I forgot to tell you before, is that I had 4 years. I still owned my company and my real estate business, but I was kind of building this dental practice. It was like a venture deal for me. And then because I'm an operator, I ended up getting involved in being the operator, for about 2 or 3 years there. So I went to the dental conferences. We had booths. I talked to hundreds of dentists from all over the world. So I did learn a little bit about the ecosystem. So when Craig says that I was helpful for him in his dental career, I also saw a little bit the other side of the curtain of the dental business back then. Wow. So I did have a little bit of dental history. I got to say something else to you guys.
Learn something every day.
Yeah. So I got to say something else to you guys. I told people, a lot of people came up to me and say, what's Craig really like? What's Peter really like? And I'm like, they're like, just like what you see on stage. But what I want to tell you guys is I have a lot of exposure to you guys, and I know you guys run great businesses. But when I saw you guys on stage, and I sat in the back of the room for several hours and watched you guys present and watch you guys get into the weeds with the different tables, which was each a dentist with the chief staff and the scheduler and the head hygienist, whatever. And I saw you get into the weeds and answer questions. You guys really have, you guys have been there, done that, seen it all, but you also know how to communicate to people. You know, there, a lot of people could read what I teach and what you teach in a book, but they need a live action model to show them that it's possible. And you guys did a phenomenal job with that. Craig said to me on a follow-up call the other day, maybe we should get this great speaker, and I forget who we were talking about. Maybe it was Tony Robbins or whatever. And I go, Craig, you don't need Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
You, Peter, you are delivering that message at that level of energy in a way that makes sense. So I was super proud of you guys in that conference.
Well, Greg, let me say something about that. That is something, honestly, when we get down there and are able to kind of ask questions and problem solve and ideate with people, I think that's where we are in flow, Greg and I, because
I love that stuff. Because we didn't do that. We didn't have enough time to do that because we had all those guest speakers, which took up a lot of the time.
And yes, Randy, it comes from experience of our own ass kicking, which we always say, but also Craig and I bring, you know, as you know us now, we bring totally different viewpoints a lot of times to things and totally different solutions. And sometimes I'll be like, yep, that's actually superior like solution that he came up with. And I'll shut my mouth and not give an option, because like I'm actually sitting there learning from him as we're live on the, you know, live kind of solving there. And it's just,
well, we're just very different people, Peter. Right. And that's, I think, what the traction is because Peter has he's an incredibly bright human being. And like you and me, Randy, I mean, Randy and I, from a profile standpoint, a strength finder standpoint, we are exactly the same human being. The only difference, our dots are all in the same place. Highly extrovert, want to win, you know, fast paced, you know, you're a little bit more detailed than I am, but the big difference, the Achilles heel for our relationship is that Randy is in his head and I'm in my heart. So what Randy will see, and remember that famous story, I'm sure we've told it a million times. Randy had a business partner that he was trying to dissolve and exit from, and Randy was tortured on how to get through this process of valuation, how to buy him out. And I just said, Randy, the way you're telling me the story, this guy just needs to feel appreciated. You're talking numbers, and this is what he's really saying is this. And it was hard. And Randy finally was like, maybe you're right. And he went and called him and he said, you know, I value you. I appreciate you. Thank you for giving me the start in the business. Money's not the real question here. Like, I just want to know that I'm thankful for you putting the seed money in here. And then the whole crisis went away. And the point of that story is that we tend to solve problems from our own bias. And Peter, you're so smart and you're so good at the steps, and then just sometimes there's just an emotional issue buried in there, and that's my superpower.
Yes.
And the combination, sometimes I'm totally wrong. I'll be going on stage or going with like what we call an intervention in the live audience, and I'm totally wrong. But sometimes it's just cool to have that balance and that different approach. I think that's the magic of what we do. If you really distill it down,
and Craig, and 2 heads are better than 1, and 3 heads are better than 2. And that's why this, you know, one of my steps in my Randy's top 20 is peer-to-peer learning. And I congratulate everybody in the room at my breakout that you're here because you recognize that you want to come in as a group and learn as a team and get educated. And some of these people are going to build relationship, break off, make friends, help each other, that sort of thing. You know, Napoleon Hill in his book, One of the Laws of Success, which is a book I highly recommend. It's really hard to read because it's written in the early 1900s. But he talks about the mastermind. And I thought it was funny when you guys named your group the Mastermind, because I thought you guys read Napoleon Hill and kind of based it off that. Yeah. But I realized that it was a common, you know, term used these days. But the truth is, when you put heads together, like Henry Ford claims it was him and his engineers that built the company and his ability to lead and motivate them, not his prowess in large-scale manufacturing. Thomas Edison said he couldn't have built the light bulb without the team, right? So we look at these people like they're individual masters, but in reality, they all were on a team because they all understood the value of putting 2, 3, 4 heads together, or 20. So I applaud you guys for what you do at the conference level and what you do at the mastermind level, and then the individual help you guys give, even with this podcast throughout the year. You guys are really doing a great job for your industry.
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks,
you
Randy.
know, kind of how the whole mastermind was born. Like, we didn't set out asking this as being a thing. Is that we wanted to jam pack as much in these conferences, the summits, as possible, Randy. But almost like it was almost so much information that people got paralyzed when they got home. And so many of us are not good implementers, or we don't have someone that can help implement. And so we just determined that, like, look, there's so much content, right? Going through the pathway. You can't master the bulletproof pathway in a weekend. You can't. And so that's where it was kind of born from, is right. Like finding people who wanted to go next level, and us being able to spend months on a certain topic to kind of create mastery on there, deploy, create some accountability, talk about it, listen to your peers, what they're struggling and going through. And that's why people, you know, you heard it over and over again. And Randy, I don't know if you were there, but people were getting up and talking about it in terms of how it transformed their life more than they thought, because they were looking back at where they were 12 months ago or 24 months ago. We have a lot of people who go through it for 2 years, because the first year is, okay, I'm going to master it. And they get exposure to it, Randy. And it's like, wow, it's still a lot. And then the second year, they get to actually kind of feel like they've kind of created that mastery, because they had awareness the first year, kind of beta tested some things. And then now it's like this fine tuning of these levers. And the swagger that I've seen from people from year 2 is unbelievable, almost to the point where I'm like, wow, like,
who is this person?
Yeah, let me sit down and listen to you now, you know?
Peter, you know, I read a lot of books, right? I devour them, and I read business books, and I read, you know, I'm not a fiction guy, I'm a nonfiction guy. And when I read a book and it's good, and I got a great message out of it, whether it's about interpersonal skills and dealing with people, or business or finance or whatever, if I read a good book, I literally finish the book and I turn it over and I read it again. And the reason I do that is because you can read a book and not know a book. Right? When you read a book that's transformational, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Napoleon Hill, you know,
or Psychology of Money,
that's my favorite. If you read one of those books, you turn it over and read it again, and you'll find how much more you got the second time. So when you told me you had people joining the mastermind for a second year, that to me is what it is. They're going to get way more the second year, even if they broke it up in between, you know, like did a year on their own and then did it again as a refresher. It'll be like a whole new course the second time around.
Well, look at Dr. Mimi, first year 700, working in 2 different practices, you know, driving around as an associate from one and moving to another one. And then first year 700-800, second year $1.5 million, third year $3 million. So one of the traps, I think, for masterminds is, as human beings, we like to be surrounded with like-minded people. And in order to get alpha, in order to get some sort of change in your life, you have to hang around with people who are further ahead in certain domains than you are. So I was talking to another person yesterday, and she's in a female mastermind. She was like, how was the conference? Blah, blah, blah. I couldn't go. My female mastermind. I said, that's awesome. Good for you. Tell me the dynamic of the group. We're all like-minded dentists. You know, we all have this. I'm like, are there any entrepreneurial dentists? She said, yes. I said, can you describe what you mean by an entrepreneurial dentist? You know, just a business person. I'm like, let me rephrase the question. Are there any female dentists in there that have grown businesses that do not rely upon their own dental production to make the operation work? The answer was no. So there's entrepreneurs, you know, I'm using air quotes for those not listening, but I don't know what that means, because if your business needs you to be there to operate, it is not a business. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh. Randy, would you agree? Like, if a business it cannot run without you, what do you call that thing?
Yeah, so I agree, but the caveat to what you just said, though, is somebody's got to build it. Somebody's got to go.
Understood.
For 10 years and bang their head against the wall every day, figure out the problems, build your systems, policies, and procedures. You can't hire yourself out of the work.
Right. You can't just go 2 years and hire a CEO and he takes your place.
Yeah.
Agreed. There's 10 years of that.
It's like, you know, entrepreneurs that start a company with an idea. They think that they're going to have the idea and then they're going to run around, have fun being the CEO, and that they're going to hire an ops person to go in and actually build the business. If you look at the greats like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, yes, they had ideas, but what they were really great at is building companies. And so, but once you get it built, then you have to build your way out of it. Now, I took a long time to do that, Craig. I did too. But it's just valuable to have someone that's gone through that, is all I'm saying. Yeah, but it took me 30 freaking years.
But it
took me 20. It took me 20.
It could be a little alienating what you just said, though, Craig. Let me unpack it just because I want to spend a little time on this. Someone hearing that may say, well, that's crazy because like I am definitely it could make someone feel like a failure potentially, right? Like I'm necessary and I'm putting the things. And I would say that it's not that you're trying to fully extricate yourself from your business. What it means is that when you are there and present, right, that you are augmenting the business. It doesn't mean that it works best when you're gone, kind of thing. It means that it's an autonomous organization. Your presence is unnecessary, but it is augmented by you being there because you're creating the vision, or you're creating the next steps, or you're handling this. But it could run without you if you wanted to go to Europe, right, for 3 months. Maybe it's not as profitable or as good as when you're there, but at least that's a good first goal as opposed to just total extraction.
Peter, that was well said. It was a good clarification of
and it's also too, just to add, it may not be what you want. The point of my comment is that you have, in my opinion, you should have people that are actually doing what you think they're doing. So when she told me there's dentists and entrepreneurs, the word entrepreneur needs clarification because in her mind, it's just someone who's running a very great practice. And I think that's fine. I mean, look at my dad. He had a great career. He never had anybody else besides a hygienist producing for him. And I think no matter what you want, dentistry can provide that. And I just think there's importance for clarity of the term of business owner and practice owner. I'm always beating on that drum.
Entrepreneur just simply means, right, that you didn't jump on someone's corporate thing. It basically means you took the risk, you took the loan, you took the thing, you jumped out there on your own. You took all the risk, and successes rely on you, kind of thing in the beginning.
That makes sense.
Ultimately,
Peter, I have a question. So I'm new to podcasting. And now I know that you have a really big audience. You know, I'm trying to be on my best behavior, but I really need to grab a cup of coffee. Am I allowed to walk away from
this is how it's done.
Randy, if you didn't see from our summit, we make fun of each other on stage. We interrupt each other just like the pod, just like your questions people ask.
I have a really important thing I want to talk to your listeners about in regards to tax when I come back.
And you're going to need some coffee to do that? You're going to need some supercharge?
Look how his virtual background gets all weird.
But his virtual background is really a picture of his house.
It is. I've sat on that chair many days playing guitar with him. But anyway, you know what's cool about having Randy is he's going to be part of the mastermind.
I know.
I want him I'm having a conversation with a CFO. I'm like, Randy needs to be having that conversation. Like I'm channeling my inner Randy about like profit and loss.
What is that word that I can't pronounce? Consigliere, Craig? Is that what it is?
That's what I call him. Yeah, consigliere. He's my consigliere.
I think I said that too. So I think just like $80, I'm going to claim Randy too. Is that cool?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can usurp 17 years of friendship because I think I'm your longest friend. By the way, I'm really proud of that. It's like a house plant staying alive in like a teenager's dorm or a college dorm room. You should play a friend game of Survivor. But anyway, you know, Randy is the guy that when the shit hit the fan in 2012 for me, and I was building my building, I got scared shitless that I called up Acme DSO and got an offer from them. And Randy was the one that like sat down with the deal and reviewed it all and wrote me this most beautiful email. I'm going to send it to you, Peter. But the subject of the email was like, you know, or the basic premise of the email is like, look, dentists and doctors are who we want our daughters to marry. Dentists never go out of business. And he wrote this thing, I want you to charge on like an entrepreneurial wrecking ball. And I want you to enroll patients, scale up, fill the chairs. It was the most beautiful email ever. And it was when I read that email, I called Acme. I said, not today. And I went back to work. And it was literally, Randy, I'm talking about that email you sent me back in 2012. Charge on like an entrepreneur wrecking ball.
You thought you were a doctor, and I called you an entrepreneur, and I just told you to act like one. And I like that you like that email, and I like that you never forget it. And just so you know, you send it to me every year, and I read the whole thing every time. Man, am I verbose.
Oh, and the final thing was he's like, that and $1.75 will get you a latte at Starbucks. So the only difference that the letter's not appropriate anymore or dated is it's now $7 for that latte.
I told all your group in my breakout the other day, I'm like, hey, I'm not a professional speaker and I'm just doing this for fun. And I said, everything I'm about to tell you in $3 will buy you a grande coffee at Starbucks. So
you have to update that, by the way. Yeah. I think it is like $7 now.
Yeah. So Peter, I just want to jump in really quick and I'm on a time frame because I have a Zoom call with a couple of senators. Isn't that sound cool?
Oh my God. What a flex.
That was such a flex.
Oh my God. Hold on 1 second. Oprah Winfrey's calling me real quick. Well, okay, I'll call you right back. I'm doing a pod. Okay. Go ahead, Randy.
Put Obama on hold.
Yeah, put him on hold.
So anyway, no, I'm a member of No Labels, as I've told you guys, and we have a kind of important call this morning that I'm going to jump for in a minute. But anyway, so here's the thing about tax, right? Tax is something that people think is not negotiable, right? And it's certainly not. You can't cheat, but it's highly negotiable, and most people don't put enough time into tax. So one of the interesting things I found in my breakout, when I asked everybody, raise your hand if you have a tax strategy, no hand goes up, all right? Think about that. You're all business owners. Your biggest expense in your life is tax, and nobody has a tax strategy. Then I asked how many people had read their tax return, and I said, and I mean every page, even the schedules where it's like a whole page with 60 lines, and on line 32, there's a minus $11. Like, highlight that and prepare, what is that? Right? Why is that on my tax return? And only 2 people in the room had read their tax return. So then I gave people this magic information. Most of your people are going to be somewhere between a 25 and 37% tax bracket. So let's just say 33%. Okay. So that means a third of every dollar that they earn in profit gets paid to the US government, 33%. And the tax code is 6,000 pages. And only 30 tell you what you owe, and 5,970 are government incentive programs, even though on the TV they'll call them loopholes. They're government incentive programs to incent behavior. And by doing those behaviors, they help you reduce your tax bill. So everybody got that, like, got it. Okay. So we're not cheating or whatever. And so then I went through some steps on how to reduce taxes. And then I told everybody, when you look at your adjusted gross income on the first page of your 1040, that's your AGI, right? That number, if you can make it go down $1, if you can make it go from 500 grand in profit to 499, 999, if you save $1, you save 33 cents in tax. Now, where do you guys make 33% profit? I don't make 33% profit on anything. But if I can lower my income 100 grand, I get paid $33,000 through less tax to the government. If I can lower my income $1 million, which I've done before, I can save $333,000 legally. I can reinvest that money in my business. And the funny thing is, carry it out to the nth degree. When you guys say your mastermind, whatever the price is, what's the price, Peter?
About 35,000.
Yeah. So 35,000 at 33% means it's really 23.5. Okay. So
and by the way, the average dentist grows their top line by 33% through the mastermind. So $1 million practice grows by 333,000.
Yeah.
So you're spending 23 to, it's crazy.
So tax, tax planning isn't done in December. Tax planning is done January 1st.
Well, it depends on who you are, because that's what I do with Randy.
Tax planning should be done January 1st, and it should be all year, and it should drive most of your decision making because it is your biggest opportunity and your biggest expense. I'd like to drop the mic on that because that's something we're going to dive into next year.
I'm excited. I know are you dropping the mic because you have to go too, Randy?
I have 3 more minutes, Peter.
Okay. Well, look, when you said that.
Well, can I take up 60 seconds with this? Because I think every dentist should hear this email that you wrote me in 2013. I want everyone to hear this because I think this is powerful.
Is this
you wrote this to me?
Is this too woo-woo?
No, March 29th, 2013. Every dentist should hear this.
Okay.
A little woo-woo.
All right.
Is my connection crappy again?
You're good. Go.
Okay. Well, Randy, you read it because I sent it to your inbox.
No, you can go. You sound fine. Go ahead.
Randy, you read it.
Go, Craig.
Okay, got it. Doctors don't go broke. I'm going. Doctors don't go broke. Doctors don't fail. Doctors can forge ahead with immunity. Everyone knows that a doctor always has customers. Everyone knows that if a doctor can't pay his bills today, he will be able to down the road. Doctors are the only profession that can get out of school and buy the $1 million house upfront with a big mortgage because there's no questioning their ability to pay. Doctors are who we want our daughters to marry. Doctors are who we want to rent in our buildings. Doctors are who we want to borrow money from, or borrow money. Forge ahead like an entrepreneurial wrecking ball. Sign up doctors, sign up patients, build your building. Fuck anybody who questions you. Those are just my thoughts. That and $2.12 will get you a grande coffee at Starbucks, Randy.
That is awesome. I love the pithiness of it, by the way, right to the point, and you land it. You land the plane quickly, and that's great.
You know what he did, Peter?
What?
He signed the loan. He borrowed, I don't know, like $5 million, $7 million, whatever. He built that building, and I'm sitting there going, God, I hope he didn't do this based on my email.
Yeah, right. You like,
and he had troubles, right? He had doctors coming and going, and I mean, it was drama for a while. But man, when he got that thing going and it spooled up, he started making money with the happiest team and the happiest patients. I am a patient of Craig's office, for anybody who doesn't know, and it is a magical experience. I love going to the dentist, and most of your customers look for a reason to cancel. I look for a reason to make an appointment because of the experience I get there.
well, it's funny. That's where Craig and I, not knowing each other since 2016, Randy, when we got together and compared notes, our journey to get to where we were was quite different. Our ecosystems look quite different. But the thing that we had commonalities on is that we were obsessed with the patient experience, right? From soup to nuts, from when it began online and our marketing, and the patient experience and the friction of them scheduling, all the things. It was the entire thing, the referral process, all of the things that we just talked about at Summit, right? The steps. And that's still like, he gets ideas from me. We're continuing to tweak that thing. Like, oh, put this card on the patient's table during COVID. Let them know that it's been sterilized just for them, kind of thing. Like, so we get to keep upping our game because of each other, right? And that's really cool. It's really cool. I know you've got to go, Randy. Craig, I think that we should wrap. It's about 43 minutes. I'm not sure. Do you want to say anything else on that as a final close for kind of, this is our wrap up, our Summit wrap up and things? Do you have anything else to say?
Well, how do people get into the mastermind? I don't even. I'm asking legitimately because people were asking me.
I'm not. Yeah, we'll have to verify it. Okay, I'll just answer the question. It's bulletproofmastermind.com. And I think there's fully commitment for this year, but you and I are low details, so we don't know. But Lacey's on the back end of that Bulletproof Summit website, and she will be able to tell someone whether or not this year is fully.
Yeah, I think there's a couple spots.
Hey guys,
I think there's a couple spots actually.
If somebody wants to join, don't keep them out or don't force them to next year. Find a way to get it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. You heard it from Uncle Randy.
If you've motivated somebody to make that decision, don't put it off. Find a way.
Okay. Fair enough. Randy, good luck with your senators. Right.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Power to the people. And
granddaughters. So I'm kind of like large focused on government and the future of this country right now. So
God bless you. Godspeed on that one, buddy.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, over and out. Another episode of the Bulletproof Dental Pod. Randy, thanks for showing up.
I always enjoy showing up, guys.
Okay. See you guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. See ya.